Hey, what's up guys? Nate here. YouTube has opened up audio ads on their platform. And as the pandemic continues to ensue and everyone starts investing more in audio related sources, because that's where people tend to be, moving over to right now, and everyone wanting to compete with Apple Music, YouTube has opened up this opportunity for a new revenue stream. We're going to talk all about that. But first, if you love receiving the most up-to-date and recent news on marketing and e-commerce and entrepreneurship, you want to be a better entrepreneur and a better business person, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below before it's too late. Don't hesitate. Before it's too late, make sure you do that. Thanks so much. Let's go ahead and let's dive right in. So we've seen a significant increase in things like YouTube Music over the past couple of years. They have more than 10x their users since 2017 to almost 80 million users at the end of 2019. And so, as I said, during the pandemic, we're seeing this shift of people moving even from things like lectures and stuff they're watching to moving over to those audio related things like podcasts. We saw this with Spotify making huge investments over the past, they were doing this before the pandemic, but Spotify was investing in podcasts way back then. I mean, for over the past couple of years before it even happened, but we're seeing huge deals continue to happen this year. So it turns out that a lot of people are liking to listening to things right now because they're finding that, turns out listening to things is just as easy as watching things. I mean, honestly, I find myself sometimes turning on a YouTube video in the car and just sitting down my phone and listening to the video over the speakers instead of pulling up something like a podcast. But now, specifically in reference to YouTube Music, YouTube saw this kind of drastic change into more people moving over to things like lectures and stuff like that and just listening to them rather than even watching them. And Spotify hinted somewhat similarly to this, in terms of podcasting. And what I talked about on the Spotify Deal podcast, I'll link to that right here or whatever, about the Spotify deal that happened with podcasting, is that the idea of running in-stream ads, whereas, if you think about YouTube, an in-stream ad, it's happening, at the beginning of the video, or you're watching a video and then an ad happens. What if you could be listening to a podcast, and as you know on most podcasts, when you listen to it, every once in a while in the middle of the show, the host, or even with Joe Rogan, it's at the beginning, but if you listen to somebody else, they might have something in the middle for a sponsor of this video. Well, what if, someone like Spotify who owns exclusivity to a certain podcast, or what if they could make a deal with the host in order to put ads in between those podcasts instead of, them doing sponsors on the podcast? Either way, I think I think sponsors, like I said in that previous video, sponsors have been doing really well on podcasts. You might think that if you're someone who listens to a podcast and you're sitting there thinking, I've never bought anything from this. I mean, I think it's over $1 billion market is going to happen this year just on sponsorships inside of podcasts. And so it's actually something that's growing a lot, and a lot of people are seeing this. And so a lot of people are taking action on this, as we saw Spotify hint at that. And so given that YouTube is seeing significant growth in their non-video content sources, they're starting to put advertisements and thinking about running audio ads on that as well. And given the growth of just YouTube Music alone, this makes a lot of sense. And so from the page itself, I want to read just a little section from there. And so the whole point of this, to help you tailor your media and creative approach to the different ways consumers are engaging with YouTube, we're introducing audio ads, our first ad format designed to connect your brand with audiences engaged in ambient listening on YouTube. Audio ads are currently in beta, as they say here, help you efficiently expand reach and grow brand awareness with audio-based creative, and use the same measurement, audience, and brand safety features as your video campaigns. So very interesting, because again, think about it. Most ads have two components, visual and audio. It's usually the visual is to catch the eye of the person that is watching the ad, but then the audio is to actually convey the offer and give them a call to action or get them to do something With another platform like Facebook ads, well, you're going to use copy as well in your headlines to catch them and to give them call to actions to be able to get them over to your site. Well, now you're able to do YouTube ads, or I'm sorry, audio ads, which basically, in the middle of I don't know how exactly it's going to work. If it's going to be probably in the middle, or I'm sorry, at the beginning or the end of a song, you might hear an ad for something after that as you're going through music, or maybe listening to a playlist, or listening to an album. You might hear just, I don't know how long or short these are going to be. Like it's still in beta, so I don't think anybody knows too much about them yet, but very interesting where instead of focusing on the visual now, which, I find that a lot of people don't focus on copy that much. And so this is really at its core going to be a huge focus on copy, and then focusing on the actual voice of the person that is talking on the ad. Hopefully it's, it reminds me a little bit of radio ads. If you, I mean, I don't know how much actually came out of radio ads, but at the same time, it was obviously something that a lot of people did, and now that people are making that transfer over to music, it could make a lot of sense. So very interesting. Now they have tested this a little bit. It is in beta, and so they have run tests on it, and they found that across the board, their campaigns increased awareness by 75%, which, for a lot of brands, brand awareness, everyone thinks brand awareness campaigns for Facebook, but it's not necessarily exactly what it means. But for a brand that has significant capital to invest in something like that, it can make sense, or using something like a retargeting campaign, but I'm not sure too much about it. And so they do give an example. One of our early testers, Shutterfly, everybody knows who Shutterfly is, used audio ads to influence purchase consideration among interest shoppers, driving above benchmark lifts, 14% lift in ad recall, and 2% lift in favorability amongst their target audience. And so this can make a lot of sense in terms of ad recall. I can see where that makes sense. I did a video about the idea of reach and frequency on Facebook a couple videos ago, talking about just that whole idea of ad recall and how much of an impact that actually makes, and what is the actual amount of times that you can show someone an ad for them to be able to come through and purchase your product. I give the example of window shopping a lot. How many times do you need to have somebody walk by a window before they actually come in and purchase the product? What Facebook showed was it was about 5 to 6 times. And so if you could have something top of funnel happening on another platform to then be able to maybe retarget an audio ad, I don't know. I mean, it's still in beta, but at the same time, I don't know how much of a driver this is going to be for something like a top of funnel, how really scalable this is going to be. But at the same time, it's not all about having one platform that is completely scalable. It's about having multiple platforms that are all scaling and working together. And so granted, there aren't a lot of people on this platform yet. You're only looking at about 80 million people. I think it'd be worth it probably to go to TikTok before you start investing in this. But it's all about looking at the big picture here. Like I said, it's about having multiple sources working together. I still don't understand the idea of I understand that whole that whole network of, or that whole industry of marketers from 5 years ago that were like, you need to niche down on a particular platform and you need to run ads for that platform. I understand that. I get that. I understand why that is. But, and that's fine to do now, but as agency owners and as business owners, it's time to start thinking about how you diversify that basket in order to make sure that you're not depending on one stream, because marketing is not the same that it was 5 years ago anymore. GDPR rules have changed a lot. Privacy rules have changed a lot. Algorithms have changed a lot. You can still make significant money on each of these platforms. I mean, 100%, no doubt. You definitely can. And especially with things like organic, you can still do that, absolutely. But at the same time, for a new up-and-coming brand who doesn't have a 5-year history and millions of dollars to invest, but obviously you have to have some money to invest, it might be good to think about diversifying those platforms. And so given that a lot of people are focusing on audio right now, it tells you one thing about it, is that it's important to know who your customer avatar is. Because if you think about running audio ads, if you think about your customer and where they are and what they are listening to, Imagine if you knew your customer avatar and you knew that they loved a certain type of music, like, I don't know, a certain type of pop or something like that, that would make them want to purchase your product, or that it would be a good ad to run it on. Now there's huge options like that in the audio game. In the podcast game, imagine being able to run an ad over a podcast. Maybe you sell some wilderness products and there's a manly wilderness podcast or something like that, or Bear Grylls runs a podcast or something, and you're able to run ads on that. It's a significant difference in broad interest targeting using an algorithm, but it actually being able to target a certain audience based upon an actual customer characteristic that's in their avatar. Well, that's a really big deal and something that marketers should look very much forward to. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, if you found value in it, make sure that you like it down below and subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks so much. Until next time.